Hey, what's up YouTube? It's Pyro coming to another video. Today we're actually going to be talking about who can be the new Avengers in the MCU. This video will actually take more of a generations view instead of trying to figure out how it would work directly within the MCU. So it's a bit more of a fan service rather than this can work in the MCU, but it definitely can work in the MCU. We're going to break that down. So to kick this off, I'll start off with what Generations is. So Generations is a line of comics that was released last year, 2017. The basic concept of this is the old and the new, the classic versions of these heroes, and the modern age of these heroes. And the modern age is kind of a tricky word to use because it actually defines a specific time. I think right now we're in the new age of heroes. I'm not quite sure. So with this old and new, you've got characters such as Logan and Laura Kinney, both who are Wolverine. So you've got the classic Logan Wolverine and then Laura Kinney's all new, all different Wolverine. And you've also got, say, Jean Grey of the X-Men, which is a little bit different because you've got the young version of Jean Grey and the older version of Jean Grey. And characters such as Clint Barton, who is Hawkeye. You've also got Kate Bishop, who is the new Hawkeye. I believe that's also all new, all different Marvel as well. But seeing as we are talking directly about the MCU and the core Avengers of the MCU, we're going to kick this off talking about Thor. Now we all know Thor, Odin's son. He is the blonde dude with the great smile, the muscles, and that hammer. Well, it's more like an axe now. Yeah, it's an axe right now. Thor actually becomes unworthy because in the story arc, Original Sin, Nick Fury whispers something in his ear. I don't know what it is because I actually haven't read Original Sin, sadly, but I'm going to, and I'm going to do a review of it. So he whispers something in his ear, and then he eventually stops believing that he is worthy. At this point, somewhere in between, Jane Foster, who is played by Natalie Portman in the MCU, becomes worthy and then becomes Thor, Goddess of Thunder. Now, I would like this. I'm intrigued by the character of Jane Foster Thor. Again, this is a character I've never read about, but the pictures that I do see have an interesting look in them, and I'm not against this. I don't know, it's a bit tricky. I'm not against the idea of creating new characters or even using established characters as long as there's a reason for it. But again, as I haven't read it, I don't know how viable in the comics it is. Within the MCU, though, it's going to be a bit tricky because the general consensus is that Natalie Portman doesn't really want to be a part of the MCU anymore. We also don't know if she's died in the Avengers Infinity War, what happened at the end. So it is a bit tricky to see what we can do with this character, but it'd be nice to see, I guess. And definitely having Jane Foster back would be really nice because I liked her character in the Thor movies. She's one of the stand-up characters for me, apart from Kat Dennings, who I just love Kat Dennings. But you know what is possible? Well, more possible than Natalie Portman coming back to the MCU to play Jane Foster. That's always so hard for me to say. Riri Williams. Yeah, that's right, we got there in the end. Her character is that of Iron Heart. And as the beginning of her name sounds, she does take on the mantle effectively of Iron Man. And when I say possible in comparison to Natalie Portman, it's more that there's nothing stopping Marvel from doing it. So we'll have a quick origin as she's not in the MCU yet. This kid's incredibly smart, like up there with the geniuses, Reed Richards, Tony Stark himself, Spider-Man is up there as well. All these cool characters that are just super brainy, she's up there. She actually creates an Iron Man armor from her school supplies in her school. So that just lets you know a little bit about how smart she is. So how this happens, and I'm not quite too sure about it, is that I think at this point Tony Stark is in basically a healing coma after a huge ass fight. I'm not too sure about it. But because of this coma, he needs someone to take on the role basically, and she's right there. He downloads his consciousness into an AI, which is in one of the Iron Man suits, and effectively becomes her mentor. And that's really cool, and I think having something like that in the MCU would be amazing. So, say Tony Stark dies in Avengers 4. You can have a character take on his role in the same way you've got Jarvis being the AI for Tony Stark. Well, was the AI for Tony Stark, who is now Vision, and we know what happened with Vision in Avengers Infinity War as well. But being able to download his consciousness into one of his suits would be really cool, or just into a program as itself, which is a great way to keep the Iron Man legacy alive. I mean, 10 years of the MCU being downloaded into a construct would be really cool, and then having the character Riri Williams taking on that role as just a little hint to begin with, then it grows into the character, and then you see that the AI is there at some point later on down the line. That's a nice reveal, a nice throwback to the original MCU and the original Avengers for Tony Stark, and I think that'd be really cool. As for outside of the MCU, it would actually be really, I guess in context, be really cheap for Marvel to cast this character. It's a young character. I think she's just an early teenager, maybe mid-teens or something like that. So get a young black actress in there, sign her up for what, 6 movies, 6, 7 movies, maybe even 9 movies if you're really thinking that far ahead, even if it's just small cameos, and just get that done. It's going to be really cost effective, and you can build on that character the same way they did with the original set of Avengers, and even characters that have been in since then. They're signed on for many movies, like Tom Holland is. From one smart kid to another incredibly smart kid, who again is up there as, I think he is the 7th smartest person in the total of the Marvel universe in the comics. We've got Amadeus Cho, totally awesome Hulk. I really like this character. This is again another character that I don't know too much in depth about when it comes to reading the comics. I've got Civil War 2, which I'm going to be reading and also reviewing. I like his character from what I've seen. It's just a completely different take on, at least from what I've seen anyway, a completely different take on the Hulk persona. He's fun-loving and happy and enjoys having the Hulk as opposed to it being a burden. So for a little bit of an origin, we're going to keep this short and sweet. Basically, Amadeus Cho absorbs a lot of gamma radiation and then becomes the Hulk. I mean, that is really the shortest version that you can get of that. There's a lot more history to this character in the terms of publication history, going back, what, 20, 30 years I think it is, or something like that. And even within the comics itself, he's been around for a while doing a lot of stuff, even before he becomes the Hulk. As one of the smartest people in the Marvel Universe, he's been doing a lot of stuff. Now, within the MCU itself, he has not been established. I believe there was kind of an Easter egg type thing wherein the Hulk movie, which is part of the MCU, you see him in the university, but I don't think that's what they're going to go through with. I don't think that's actually been confirmed. But his sister, Helen Cho, I think her name is the same one that is in Avengers, not Infinity War, Avengers Age of Ultron, and his sister is the one that helps create Vision. That would be really cool to have that connection. As for beyond that, he actually has huge beef with Carol Danvers due to the events that happened in Civil War 2. With her pretty much leading the ways like Hot Wheels after Avengers 4, in the same way that Tony Stark's Iron Man is in the first 10 years, I think she's going to be that heading character. So having some conflict already at the beginning of it would be really cool. And finally, we actually have Captain America. Now this one is probably the trickiest one for me, because as far as Generations is concerned, Sam Wilson would be the new Captain America. And I have no issues with that whatsoever. The pieces that I've read with Sam Wilson as Captain America are really cool. The most recent thing I have read is Avengers X-Men Axis, where he basically is a villain, which probably isn't the best thing, but it shows his angry side and so on. And I think that was really cool. But what does make this tricky is that you've also got Bucky Barnes being Captain America as well in the comics. While he's not the Generations one, he's still been Captain America for quite a long time. Now, as far as Sam Wilson is concerned, long story short for how he became Captain America. Steve Rogers loses the super soldier serum, he eventually gets old, he's still a badass, and then Sam Wilson takes over the mantle. Again, short and sweet, that's all I'm doing for this, no need to go too in depth, but that's what happens. With that being said, we've got Sam Wilson, we've got Bucky Barnes. Both definitely very capable of taking on the mantle of Captain America in the comics, and definitely in the MCU. In the MCU, we've seen Bucky actually use the shield multiple times. Throwing it around, catching it, definitely. It's just crazy, especially at the end of Civil War with him and Steve Rogers, Captain America, fighting Iron Man. That team up it blew my mind, and dude, it was crazy, super exciting. As for Sam Wilson, I think him taking on the mantle of the MCU would definitely be much more of a personality-based takeover, whereas he still has the leading skills and so on as definitely someone being in the paratroopers army. I don't know exactly what he was doing, but he's been there, so I think his line of thought, his process, his leadership skills, his overall persona definitely works well with being a Captain America type character. And the time that he spent with him in the MCU, he's definitely, I think, over a period of time, he's probably spent more time with Steve Rogers' Captain America than Bucky Barnes has. The big issue with this, though, is, well, spoilers, but if you haven't seen Avengers Infinity War yet, it can't be that much of a spoiler for you right now. There's probably much worse things that you probably have heard about this movie. Anyway, Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes die. Literally, they become super dust, and, you know, it's crazy. Thanos just fully snaps his fingers and they're gone. They're dust, vacuumed. So that definitely puts a dampener on this generation's idea for them. Really and truly, the main one that probably works in this is Riri Williams. I mean, she's a new character, completely new character, never before seen in any way, shape, or form. Definitely. I mean, you can say the same thing about Amadeus Cho, but he still has that connection. I think the easiest one for Marvel to do in relation to who can the new Avengers be would definitely be Riri Williams. I'm happy with any of these things, but with that being said, I'm going to bring this video to an end. Let me know in the comment section below who you guys think should be the new Avengers, or even like any characters that you want to see in the Avengers, be it from the Fox franchises in X-Men, some of the Fantastic Four, or even like new crazy characters like Blade. I would love to have Blade in a new movie, even if it was Wesley Snipes doing it again. Anyways, dudes, leave a like on the video. That'd be pretty cool. I'd really like that. If you could subscribe, that'd also be really cool. I mean, that's always good. It shows that appreciation, you know, the support. I like those things. I'd prefer if you didn't dislike the video because, well, I like when people like my stuff, and when they don't like it, it's, you know, I mean, it's okay, I guess. I mean, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, you know, but like it. That'd be nice. And hit the notification bell, because it lets you know when I'm doing more videos, which I do weekly. I do videos weekly. Yeah. So, I still don't have a sign-off yet. So, peace.